Good morning, beautiful people. I hope that you have an amazing day today. President Trump met with the U.S. Coast Guard. We're going to play it. I'm going to condense it down a little bit for the sake of time and give you the meat of the speech. See how you like it, and we'll talk about a few other things. First and foremost, happy birthday, Doc. Today is his birthday. A huge shout out to him. And I reached my 4-year milestone today, which I'll talk about later. I'm going to get right into the speech. Everything I talk about is for educational purposes. And feel free to like the video. What's good? Good morning, 23 B-Rad. Good morning. Ready for a little Trump today? I'm going to start your day off right. All right. Good morning, Daniel. Big hugs, 23 B-Rad. We got to let them know, right? Got to let them know. It is 1:30 in the morning here, so I can't keep y'all too long, so I'm going to get right into this today. Happy late night. 3:30. 3:30. Are you in the Midwest? You're 2 hours in front of me. Why is this video quiet? Why are you quiet?
Ready, two. Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats.
What did I miss? Oh, the salute. God bless the truth. Look at that. You guys know I was in the Navy. I love this stuff.
It is now my privilege to introduce the Commandant of the Coast Guard, Admiral Kevin E. Lunday.
Lives will depend on it.
He did a great speech,
and
but
the lives of the American people we serve will depend on it. The Academy is prepared.
And our president, our commander-in-chief, he believes in peace through strength. But he also understands that not everybody believes in peace, and some people only respect strength. Because of the great men and women who sit in front of me today, you give our commander-in-chief the options, because you're the 1%ers. You're the 1% that'll stand up and you defend our freedoms, you defend our Constitution, you defend our homeland, you defend our nation. And our commander-in-chief loves you for that. As the 1%ers, the president has made it his obligation plus his mission to fund our military in a way that no other president has done. He's invested millions, in the tunes of 25 billion, actually, to fund the Coast Guard, to bring the Coast Guard back to mission capable, to not just fit today's missions, but to focus on tomorrow's missions as well. As I said it before, you're the front line protecting our shores. You protect our inland waterways. You're the law enforcement of the water. And our president realizes that. Your commander-in-chief, this isn't his first time to come and speak at this podium. In fact, this is his second time to come speak at this podium. And I'm going to go off my notes a little bit to just talk about the ride over here. He had your Commandant, Lundy, in the Flying Mobile Office, or the Oval Office. And he was bragging about everything from your uniforms to how you guys learn how to swim, to your missions capability, and to the fact that you guys are involved in every mission. And when we're taking down the narco boats, to the illegal flag vessels. You guys are involved in it. And it comes with a great sense of pride for me because I get to call our commander-in-chief also my friend. And for me to stand in front of you today and be able to introduce him to the one percenters, I take that as one of the greatest honors of my life. So without anybody waiting on me, because I'm never going to get in the way of this guy, let me introduce your commander-in-chief, our 45th and 47th president of the United States, Mr. President Donald J. Trump.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. That was beautiful. He's a fantastic man. He's a special, very special man. He always has been. And Mark Wayne, thank you. Appreciate it. And hello, cadets. And let me begin by saying a very big congratulations to the class of 2026, special class. It's a true honor to be here on this magnificent day at one of the most prestigious military academies anywhere in the world. And I'm thrilled to become the first president to ever give a second keynote address to this storied institution. I am very proud of that honor. We'll have to try it a third time. We're going to have to try it maybe a third time, too, to keep that record intact. And a few moments from now, every graduate in the field will go forth with a even greater honor, one of the highest distinctions anyone can attain. You'll become commissioned officers in the United States Coast Guard, and our country is hot. This is a great time. Our country is hot. I hate to say it, but I will. A year ago, a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, the last administration, we were a dead country. Right now, we're the hottest country anywhere in the world. We're respected all over the world. You saw that with China just recently. You saw that in Venezuela. You saw that right now in Iran. Everything's gone. Their Navy's gone. Their Air Force is gone. Just about everything. You know, the only question is, do we go and finish it up, or are they going to be signing a document? Let's see what happens. But we're a hot country. We're the hottest country anywhere in the world, with the strongest, most powerful military anywhere in the world, and there's nobody close. I want to thank our new Secretary of Homeland Security, Mark Wayne Mullen, a fantastic man, for the introduction, along with Coast Guard Commandant Admiral Kevin Lundry. And he is something. He's a special guy. You know, when you get to that position in the Coast Guard, you're very something. I don't have to ask, gee, how good is he? They have to be very good. It goes with the territory. And the president of the Republic of Palau, Surin Gil Whips Jr., I want to thank you very much. And you're here, and we appreciate you being here. Thank you very much. Over the past 4 years, this class has been mentioned by an exceptional team of professors and coaches and military professionals who have shaped you into leaders. You came with very good quality, but they've shaped you nevertheless. And warriors who revere honor and really honor duty. You honor duty like very few others can even think about it. So let's give a big round of applause to the entire faculty and staff that made this possible. And I especially want to thank Academy Superintendent Rear Admiral Greg Rothrock. Come on, get up here, Greg. Come here, come here. He does a hell of a job. You don't want to mess with him. Don't mess around with him. Thank you very much, Greg. Fantastic. Also, your Assistant Superintendent, Captain Jess Razioks. Where is he?
I kind of want to get past this bit to the speech.
Nice.
That's okay.
Very nice. Thank you.
The
Commandant
pleasantries are nice, but I want to get to
Commandant of he's like nobody's ever seen before in some cases. Coast Guard warriors piloted the famous Higgins boats and delivered American liberation to beaches of Normandy and sailed through smoke and flame and gunfire to put the Marines and the Guadalcanal very much into play. And they patrolled the distant shores of Manila Bay and Mekong Delta and the Red Sea, and they patrolled them like nobody has ever been able to patrol them
sweet
before or since. For decades, the men and women of this noble service have repeated an unofficial motto of pure, unyielding courage. It says, you have to go out, but you don't have to come back. That's a statement. You have to go, I think of that. You have to go out, but you don't have to go back. And you know what that means? That means danger. And it's a statement that you live by. This is the unbelievable heroism and exceptional selflessness that lives in the soul of every single cadet on this field, every single one of you. And you've all been tested. You'll be tested further and probably at higher levels as your career goes on, but you've been very strongly tested and you have what it takes. You're America's first defenders. You are America's first responders. You are the living standard bearers of America's first fleet. As your commander-in-chief, I could not be prouder of the great class of 2026. Congratulations. Congratulations. Amazing. And I'd have no doubt to say, and just like those Coast Guard legends who came before you, you will always put America first. We put America first now. We haven't done that for a long time, but we do that under the Trump administration, I will tell you. And the whole world is saying, well, America's first, and they put America first. And we help others too, but we put America first. 4 years ago, most of the cadets here today could have gone to almost any school that you wanted. It's so hard to get into the Coast Guard. I had so many people, sir, could you get my son? He wants to go to the Coast Guard Academy. And I look at the son, I say, he's not going to make it. Terrible. I lost a lot of friends. I lost a lot of friends. But every once in a while, I'll call up with somebody outstanding, and they'll generally take care. If they don't take care, they're fired. So, you know, they have no choice. But he's you coming in. But you chose New London. You chose Cape May. You chose Kodiak Island. You chose the great service of God and country and the U.S. Coast Guard. And it was the best decision of your lives. One of the great decisions. You will say it. It's hard to say it now, but you will say it as time goes by. This will be the best decision of your life where you decided to learn, go to school in this incredible, beautiful place. You came as strangers and American teenagers. You leave as officers, American warriors, and friends forever. You're always going to be friends with each other, hopefully with me. Today, this field is full of some of the smartest minds, the toughest athletes, and the most tenacious leaders our nation has to offer. It really is. It is very hard to get into this particular place. It is very, very hard. It is a lot of broken hearts. People don't do it. Good people, smart people, they can't quite make it. Many of you have excelled academically, but 49 cadets have studied longer and harder than anyone else. The very accomplished Coast Guard Academy scholars. Would you please stand? These are the really brilliant people. You're all brilliant, but these are perhaps slightly more brilliant.
Good morning, Mark. How are you today?
Don't feel guilty. Don't feel guilty. Never feel guilty about success, right? But I think it's great. And at the top of your class with the highest score in both military and academic achievements is distinguished graduate Matthew Lanzillotta. Where is he?
He's still doing the pleasantries. You guys, do you mind if I skip
Come
past
here.
this?
I'll get up here. Come
It's
on.
okay. Just
Come
for the
on,
second
get up.
time. Are you a
Get
Coast
up.
Guard
I
member?
want to see this
Thank you
guy.
for your service. Thank you. Thank you, member. I want to skip past this part, guys. Would you be mad at me? Zach, you look good. Okay, this is an honor.
I hate good-looking
Skip it.
men.
Thank you. Thank you. I want to get to the heart of his speech so we can get to Iran.
Matthew, that's great. Thank you very much. It's a great honor. We also have the only cadet who earned a
But
perfect
congratulations
score
to
on
these
every
young
single
men.
fitness.
Congratulations.
Now we're talking
Gotta
fitness.
get past it.
Will be drafted by the NFL or have a chance of getting into the NFL or baseball or basketball or whatever it might be. The problem is they had to serve, as you know, they had to serve 5 years,
Good.
and that's not exactly conducive to being drafted very high if you had to go away. So I made a decision in my first term, and we adhere to it very strongly, that when somebody has the ability to go into Coast Guard or West Point, Annapolis, Air Force, any of them, if you have a student with extreme ability that gets drafted and can play in professional football, we allow you to go immediately, and you serve your time in the Coast Guard or whatever after your professional career is over. And it has made such a difference. It's also made a big difference in recruiting. That's why your teams are better today than they used to be. So I make these little contributions. I don't know if people know I made those contributions, but so, Brooke, I want 25% of everything you earn. Thank you, Brooke. I appreciate it. So it's a little bit of a help, but it actually, what we didn't expect, it made your recruiting much better, because you're able to now recruit the top people that really have a chance of getting into professional sports. And one of the reasons you have such good teams. We also have your all-time leader in points in the assist for women lacrosse, Abby McAllister. Abby, where are you, Abby? Stand up, Abby. Oh, are you that good, Abby? Do you want to come up, Abby? Come on, Abby. Come on up, Abby. See, we throw them a little off on timing when I do this, but what the hell? We have time, right? This is your day. And when somebody achieves with these people, we should give them a little extra recognition, right? That's a tough sport, Abby. I don't know. I'm not going to mess with you. That's great. That's a big record. Thank you, Abby. Of course, there are those of you who have made your mark on the school in many other ways, like the mayor of the class, Freddie Wheaton, the founder of Phi Kappa Granny, Evan Grenahan, and the leader of the esports club, Aiden Roskowski. They've done a great job. That's good. That's also called leadership. Well, everyone has worked and studied hard. Some may have spent a little bit too much time at a place called Mr. G's. I don't know what Mr. G's is. I don't know what it is, but I don't like the sound of this. Where am I going with this one? But we want you all to have a clean slate as you begin your careers. So therefore, Mr. Superintendent, I hereby absolve all cadets who are on restriction for minor conduct infractions and even somewhat major infractions, effective immediately.
That's awesome. Is he for real? So he gave them a pass?
You got away with murder. I was just in a good mood. I was in a very good mood to do that. Every branch of our armed forces protects American lives, but the Coast Guard is the only service explicitly dedicated to saving them. You're saving lives. You never leave an American behind, and you never would. In the past year, our Coast Guard heroes have saved over 5,200 lives at least, and helped carry out and carry over 19,000 people to safety. Amazing. One of the special cadets in this class has already saved his first life during his first class summer, providing life-saving care to the person in distress off the coast of Alaska. Job well done. That's Mason White. Mason, thank you. Stand up, please. Thank you. Thank you, Mason. Great job. That was early on, right? And that was a great job. Thank you very much. When you leave here today, every cadet on the field will be stepping into a critical role in the defense of our country to protect our maritime infrastructure. 12 of you will be going to Coast Guard Cyber Command. That's a big deal. 20 are heading to Coast Guard Flight School. 23 will join prevention and response, and a whopping 181 cadets will become afloat officers in a fleet, because, as you like to say, underway is the only way, and that's a pretty cool statement. And you know, I don't know if you know this, but I was telling your leaders before that we have 11. You know, we're way down on icebreakers, and we've ordered 11. We're working with Finland. They make icebreakers. They make the best icebreakers. We're going to learn everything we can learn. We're going to shortly make them ourselves.
Thank you for the
We're making
gift.
right now,
Be
currently
rad.
under
Thank
construction.
you.
We have 11, beautiful. And I said, come on, when's the first one coming? They said, in 28. I said, I'm going to be here in 28. Maybe I'll be here in 32 too. I don't know. Maybe I will. But I'm going to be here in 28. And I'll tell you, I said, that's great, because I'm going to be there at the dedication. They have been trying to get icebreakers for years and years, and no president was able to provide them with what you need to get it done. And I want to thank the country of Finland, because they are known to make the best icebreakers. And I thought, going there, for starters, you know, we tried making one, but it was too front heavy. It wouldn't have worked, because an icebreaker has to come crashing down. And when the front weighs 4 times more than the back, bad things happen. So I realized we didn't know what the hell we were doing. I went to Finland and was with the president of Finland, and we worked out a deal. And we're making 11 total. Some of them are going to be made right here. We're going to learn the craft, and we're going to have so many icebreakers. You know, Russia has 48, and we have one very old one. It's ridiculous. And we have the whole Arctic. We have the whole region. And we're going to have a whole big fleet very shortly, and they're starting to come in a very quick fashion. After that, we're going to go way up higher. We'll have at least 55 within a short period of time. So that'll be great. And you're going to be operating them and running them. And it's probably another category. The class of 2026 is graduating at an incredible, exciting time for our nation and the Coast Guard in particular. As you enter the office corps of the greatest military in the history of the world, our national strength is back. Our morale is back. We are a confident country again. We have confidence is back. And above all, America is back, bigger and better and stronger than ever before. We have a strong, great, respected country again. We went off course. We went very sadly off course. For years, Washington, D.C. was run by foolish politicians who thought they could defy the laws of world history, violating every common sense principle, for preserving national power and national security. And they surrendered our industrial capacity to other countries, crippled our energy production, threw open our borders. We had borders with they were open borders, they called them. People came in totally unchecked and unvetted. You know how many people over 4 years in the last term? 25 million people. They came in as murderers. They were coming in from other countries. They came in from prisons. They were drug dealers. They came in from mental institutions and insane asylums. They allowed them to just flow into our country. We're getting them out. We've got a lot of them out. 11,888 murderers. Think of that. 50% or more than 50% committed more than one murder. They were allowed in our country. We can never forget the sins of what they did to our country, but we're getting them out. In fact, we've gotten them to the extent that we just had the best crime numbers in history. The best crime numbers, meaning the lowest crime numbers in history, were just last month released. Lowest number of murders since the year 1900, 125 years. So what they did to us is terrible, but we're getting it back into shape really properly. And now we went from the worst border in history to the strongest border we've ever had. In 11 months, not one illegal alien was able to get into our country. When you think of that, that's pretty amazing. And they can come in, but they have to come in legally. They have to come in through a process. They have to love our country. They have to show us that they can love our country, not that they want to blow up our country. I think that everybody agrees with that. Under this administration, we don't apologize for American power or wealth. What we do really is we want to maximize it. We take advantage of it. We unleash it. And we wield it to pursue our country's glorious destiny and our beautiful American dream. We have the American dream back. You didn't hear about the American dream too much for 4 years, and now the American dream is back. This is truly the golden age of America. We are in now the golden age. We have more production, more people. We have more people working today than at any time in the history of our country by far. We have more people having great jobs today than at any time in the history of our country. Our country is respected all over the world. The men and women of the Coast Guard have a vital role to play in this resurgence. This is a great resurgence. We have $18 trillion being invested in the United States. That's many, many times more than ever before. In fact, you'd have to go back more than 10 years. Another country a long time ago had 3 trillion. We have 18 trillion. The last administration for 4 years had less than 1 trillion. We have $18 trillion being invested in our country in 11 months because the numbers for the 12th have not come up. So that's going to increase it yet further. So that's an honor. It's a great honor. To me, that's something special. We're building plants, auto plants, every kind of plant you can imagine all over the country. And they're coming in from Canada. They're leaving other countries. They stole our auto business. They stole our chip business. We'll have close to 50% of the chip business by the time I leave. And right now we have none practically. And we'll have, it was taken by other places. It was taken by Taiwan. I'm not knocking them. I'm saying if they can get away with it. But if you had the right president, that would have never happened. Wouldn't have been allowed to have happened. You would have put tariffs on and you say, that's okay. You can steal our business. But if you're going to sell, if you think you're selling those chips back into us with no tax, you can forget it. And if we did that, we wouldn't have lost those businesses, the autos, the chips, the semiconductors. All of that would be here, but it's all pouring back into our country right now because of the word tariff. As you know, one of my favorite words, I got into big trouble. I said, this is my favorite word in the dictionary, my favorite word, the word tariff. And the fake news, look at all of them back there. They said, what about God? What about wife, family? What about other things like Bible? So I was in deep trouble because I said tariff is my favorite. So I made it number 5, and now I'm okay. Now I'm okay. They think I'm kidding, but they gave me a hard time. But with your help, we're reasserting one of the most time-honored principles of our national security, that the American dominance in Western Hemisphere will not be threatened under any circumstance. As an example, we will not let Iran have a nuclear weapon. That's all. It's very simple. We will not let that happen. And we have great support. You wouldn't know that by reading the fake news, but we have great support. People don't want them to have a nuclear weapon, and they will not have a nuclear weapon, and they want to make a deal so badly. We'll see what happens, but we hit them very hard, but we may have to hit them even harder, but maybe not. But we're not going to let Iran have a nuclear weapon and blow up the entire Middle East, Israel, the entire Middle East, and then come here for you. Not going to happen. So just as no family can be truly secure in a violent neighborhood, we will not allow chaos, instability, or danger to fester in America's own backyard. We're not going to let it happen. One of the reasons we have Mark Wayne.
Good morning,
Jerome. One of the reasons
friend.
that I feel so good about things, he's a tough cookie. You know, he was a great fighter, too. A great fighter. He was a tough cookie and a very successful fighter. His sons are all-American fighters, so they have good genetics in that family. But Mark Wayne is a tough guy with I always say he's a tough guy with a great heart. And that's a good combination. So from the Gulf of America to the frozen waters of the Arctic, from the shores of Havana to the banks of the Panama Canal, we will drive out the forces of lawlessness and crime and foreign encroachment, just like we've been doing. You know, we have only 3% coming in. We were getting tremendous, you would understand this because you were involved in this. We're having tremendous amounts of drugs brought in by sea, by ocean, by water, and a tremendous amount. And we've now reduced that to 3%. So it was a big percentage, and now it's all the way down to 3%. And we've hit them very hard, as you know. Not that it's something we wanted to do. And we never miss. We hit them very hard. And actually, people are trying to figure out who are the 3% because they happen to be the bravest people perhaps anywhere in the world. The 3% that's left, but I don't even think they have 3%. We virtually stopped it. And now we're going to stop the drugs coming in by land, and that's the easy one to do. That's the easy one. I want to thank the Coast Guard because you've been unbelievable in that endeavor. Think of it. We had a majority of drugs were coming in by the sea, by the ocean, and we have virtually stopped that. And now for the easy part, the land, much easier, and it will be equally quick. And we are going to have drugs are down by 61%, but we want to get them down to almost nothing because they've destroyed so many families, so many people, so many lives. Our Coast Guard cutters are elite tactical teams where the pivotal is enforcing our successful blockade. And you just have to see this. We have a blockade that's, they call it the wall of steel. Nobody goes through them. And you're a big part of it. Nobody goes through the Navy, the Coast Guard. We have ships that tried to go through, and they're saying young captains from Coast Guard Academy, the Naval Academy, Annapolis, and they say, do not proceed further. They have the greatest loudspeaker system, much better than this one. Now, let me tell you, it goes over the water, it bounces on the water, and you have this young, handsome captain saying, do not proceed further. You are in enemy territory. Do not proceed further or we will shoot. And you have a ship that's like 2 football fields long that carries 2 million barrels of oil. Think of that, 2 million barrels. And on occasion, they'll try and disobey. And last week you saw one shot, not a missile shot, a bullet, a very large bullet, a bullet from 4 miles hit the rudder of the ship, and the rudder of the ship fell into the ocean. It was a beautiful thing to see. It just fell in. I said, what the hell kind of a shot was that? And the man said, no, we are going back to Iran. See, now I say Iran. I don't use because he obviously has a correct pronunciation. We will go back to Iran. And it took, with a broken rudder, with the rudder that was laying at the bottom of the sea, it took 10 miles just to turn that ship back. But nobody violates it, nobody. And I was with, as you know, President Xi of China 2 days ago. We had a tremendous meeting, very successful meeting. And he agrees our military is phenomenal. I don't want to go beyond that, but I will tell you, he respects our military tremendously. Our military is respected. We have, as I said, the greatest military anywhere in the world, and we're going to keep it that way. We have a budget this year of $1.5 trillion. That's the biggest budget we've ever had. That includes the Coast Guard. Don't worry about it. Look, they're getting a little bit concerned. Don't worry, it includes you. You're going to have so many Coast Guard cutters, you're not going to know what to do with them. You'll have a cutter that's 2 years old. You say, Captain, I want the new one. Didn't used to be that way, but we have a lot of money coming your way. You know that because of these people and people like them. They made a great case for it, and I'm a big fan. So, we take care of it while I'm here because we're going to take care of the Coast Guard like you wouldn't believe. And in a flawless, thank you. And in a flawless operation last January, supported by the Coast Guard, America's armed forces captured the outlaw Nicolas Maduro and brought him back to American justice. He's awaiting trial from Venezuela, an attack that took less than 1 day. And it was an amazing, I think it's one that's going to be studied for a long time. Great, smart country, very tough military country, but it really took 48 minutes and 13 seconds to be exact, but let's give it 1 day. And he's now awaiting trial. And now we have a great joint venture with Venezuela We have millions of barrels of oil coming into Houston and coming into parts of Texas and Louisiana and Alaska. And it's been an amazing thing. You know, Venezuela used to be a really great country 20 years ago. Then it went the wrong way. It went the way they'd like to take this country. Some lunatics would like to take this country way, way left and destroy it. But we're not going to let that happen. We're not letting that happen. This service has also been at the really the center of the battle to restore sovereign borders for the United States and keep drugs and criminals out of our country. And we're keeping them out. Since I took office, the Coast Guard has seized over 206 million lethal doses of illicit narcotics, the most in the history of our country, enough to kill a country, a large country, many, many times over. And you've seized it, and you seize it constantly, and you don't play games. Last August, the Coast Guard cutter Hamilton interdicted 76,000 pounds of illegal drugs, the largest Coast Guard drug bust of all time, largest ever. And I'm telling you, the Coast Guard has always been good, but you've stepped it up even beyond that. 5 cadets graduating today were part of that historic action. And I'll mention their name. Elliot Coles, stand up, Elliot. Jenna Lewandowski, Piper Stevens, Hannah Warner Kay, and JJ Banek Gebel. Thank you. Great job. Thank you very much. The Coast Guard has also played an important role in Operation Epic Fury to ensure that the Iranian regime never obtains a nuclear weapon. Just 2 months ago, off the Coast Guard, Malaysia, a highly trained U.S. Coast Guard tactical team helped seize a sanctioned Iranian oil tanker that had been used to transport over 1 million barrels of oil from Kharg Island into the coffers of Iran. We don't want that to happen. This is the 3rd sanctioned Iranian vessel the Coast Guard has helped capture since we began the fighting, the real fighting with Iran, and many more to come, I suspect, unless they get smart. Everywhere you go, you say, never forget. You represent the most righteous, successful, and exceptional nation in all of history, and you were really put in a position where you wear the uniform, the most powerful military ever to sail the seas. You are right now at the pinnacle of this nation. You are at the pinnacle. 4 years ago, 3 years ago, I couldn't have said that. I wouldn't have been up here, but I couldn't have said that. You were not at the pinnacle at all. Right now, you're at the pinnacle of the Coast Guard, at the pinnacle of the military, and that military includes the Coast Guard will soon be stronger and more powerful than ever before with all of the things we've done. Last year, I signed a record-setting $25 billion investment in the Coast Guard, including funding for 22 new cutters, 40 new search and rescue helicopters, 25 state-of-the-art icebreakers. And we're also providing $380 million for renovations and improvements right here at the Academy. The Academy is going to be so beautiful. It's already beautiful, frankly, but it's going to be tippy-top, as I say. It's going to be perfect. Under our leadership, this service is seeing more action than at any time in many decades. I would say at any time, period, you've never seen what is happening. And the Coast Guard, as good as it has been, has never seen what's happening to it right now. And the spirit has never been higher. And I think we can say that. It starts with the leadership, but I think the spirit with the Coast Guard has never been higher than it's been right now. And I got to know a couple of people over the last 2 weeks from the Coast Guard, and I can see why. These are incredibly brilliant people, good people. I have to say, I don't want to give them any ideas, but in the private sector, they'd be making a lot of money. And you know what? They wouldn't trade what they're doing. Would you guys trade for millions a year? Maybe. Maybe. No, you wouldn't. I don't think you would. A lot of people would like to be in your position that are doing very well, believe me. In the 4 years before I took office, the Coast Guard recruitment missed targets by 20 and 25 and 30%, the targets, the recruitment targets. And not only you, the Marines, the Army, Navy, Air Force, Space Force, that's my baby. I started the Space Force. I was very happy. It's going to turn out to be one of the most important of all. But you miss your recruitment numbers, and it was an embarrassing time. Not only the military, the police, firemen, anybody with a uniform, they didn't want to be associated with our country, frankly. And last year, the Coast Guard beat its recruitment goals by 120%. And we have so many people wanting to get into the Coast Guard and all levels of the military now that weren't even thinking about it. To me, it's one of the most exciting things. When I first came, we had the election on November 5th, and it really started from the day of the election. But we had the election on November 5th. But I will tell you, before that, you couldn't recruit people to go into the military. Nobody wanted to be there. They were trying to reduce standards. Now the standards, I hate to say, are through the roof. But now we have lines of people wanting to get into every group of, whether it's the Navy, the Coast Guard. And I will tell you, I looked at the numbers, the Coast Guard in particular, you have exceeded your numbers. You have a waiting list that's a mile long of people that want to get in. So I think I have to say congratulations on that. You know, it's a really big deal. And by the end of my term, we are adding 15,000 new Coast Guardsmen. And we're going to have them added to the list because of all the new equipment that we've ordered. And it's a true honor to be your commander-in-chief. I mean, I'm looking at you. I'm glad to get to shake hands of a few of your outstanding people. But every one of you are outstanding. You're in a category that's really very unique, very hard to be. Very hard to get there. Now, you know, even by the recruitment numbers, you know it is. But beyond that, it's just a very special group of people. And you are a very special group of people. As you begin your important new missions and your mission in life, today, let me leave you with a few words of advice to maybe help you a little bit on your way. First, most important, never, ever give up. Never give up. They asked me, how do you be successful, sir? Starts with never give up. I've learned a lot about life, but the one thing I've really learned is that perseverance, never quitting, never giving up is a big deal. You'll be right there, right at the gate. And you've seen it. You've seen it in sports. You've seen it. They're right there at the gate and they give up. Never give up. And whatever happens, no matter where you are in life or what situation you find yourself in the seas or anywhere else that you may be, keep pushing forward. Always push forward. Never stop pushing forward. No matter how terrible the storm, no matter how difficult the mission, never surrender. Keep going, keep fighting, and make the adversary quit first. Let them quit. They're going to quit if you keep going. Second, at this pivotal time of transformation for our armed forces, you have to think big. It's much better thinking big. Small solutions yield small results. Only big ideas will yield to tremendous change and greatness. Americans do not want to live in a world ruled by someone else's big ideas. Live in a future and shape your future, and you want to dominate your future, and you want to dominate it for your great military and for your country. Think big. During the course of your Coast Guard careers, it will be time for incredible change, and change is going to happen, change that we can't even think of right now. The things will happen, and I believe for the best, hopefully for the best, but I believe for the best. But things will happen that you can't even imagine, and it's going to be very exciting. But the way that's going to happen is through thinking big. Nothing great was ever built. Think of that. Nothing great was ever built without the word momentum at your side. In times of your life, you'll have momentum. That's the time you go for it. I tell stories about people that lost their momentum and they went and it didn't work out well. You know when you're doing well. You know when you have that positive momentum. So take that momentum and go for it. So many people, they wait the wrong time. You know when it's right. Go with the momentum. The towering men and women of history have always been people of action. You answered the call to serve, and now you need to make sure that most of your time is spent on very important roles in life. You've done a lot, and you've had a lot of relaxation. Frankly, if you enjoy what you're doing, there's no such thing as work. It's not work. What you're doing, I would say with most of you, it's not work. What you've done is a lot of work, but it's not work. It really isn't. It's it's a great pleasure. I find myself, I work a lot. They say he's a workaholic. I'm not a workaholic. It would be tough if I didn't do things. If I didn't do things, I don't know what I'd be doing. It probably wouldn't be good. But you got to love it. And if you love it, it's never considered work. There will always be time for taking the easy path. And there'll be times when you want to do that or to settle for maybe a short-term fix. But for the best results, it'll always be a product of unbelievably hard work. That's why I always sign something. They say, oh, could you put something on? I say, work hard. To a young person, work hard. Because you have to work hard. It's so competitive. Life is so competitive. You have to work hard. It's never going to come easy. You have to work hard. A lot of great athletes, they say, the harder it work. I remember Gary Player, a great golfer. He was somewhat smaller than other great athletes. And he said, the harder I work, the luckier I get. That was the first time I heard it. I've heard that expression a lot, but the first time was from the great Gary Player, one of the top 3 golfers of all time. And he said, the harder I work, the luckier I get. It's a great expression. Fourth, as you go into life, and right here at the Coast Guard, you want to keep your eyes in the boat. You want to have your eyes in the boat. You know what that expression means better than anybody. Do not be distracted by what's outside. You just want to look back and you want to just see what's happening, but keep your eyes in the boat, a Coast Guard expression. Focus on the task before you and move forward. Always, always move forward, never move back. Remember, what actually matters and pursuit of success it really has to be relentless. You've got to be relentless. And many of you are relentless. You wouldn't be here if you weren't, because there are 10 people for every seat that I'm looking at, 10 people, and I think even more than that, that wanted that seat, and you made it. So finally, you have to be strong. You have to be really strong. And I don't mean just with muscle strength. I mean with mental strength. And you have to be brave. In your profession, you have a level of bravery that has to supersede a normal person's bravery. But that's why you're here. America was not founded by weak and timid men or women who cowered in the face of evil or sat by as danger loomed. As President Theodore Roosevelt said, freedom is not a gift that lasts long in the hands of cowards and weak people. Today, our country faces the threats that are very strong, but we have a much stronger country today than we had 2 years ago. Today, the threats that look really bad 2 years ago, 3 years ago, we had a country that was rudderless, just like that ship that had its rudder shot off. We have a country now with very strong, powerful rudders. But every one of you has your soul, the strength and courage to face whatever comes before you. You're going to do unbelievably well. I mean, just have no idea. I look at audiences all the time, but I'm looking at this audience. It's just an incredible group of people, a beautiful, beautiful, brilliant group of people. So you're brave and you're bold and you're always ready to go. And you inherit the legacy of some of the most daring and intrepid Americans ever to live. You are inheriting the mantle of some of the bravest people, some of the most incredible warriors ever right here. A tradition of pride and glory and greatness passed down from one generation to the Coast Guard heroes to the next. You had great heroes. In World War II, the Coast Guard was the first branch of the military to seize a Nazi vessel and take enemy prisoners. The first one to do it was the Coast Guard, the first branch to traverse the Northwest Passage, and the first to sail a ship right up the middle of the frigid seas to the North Pole. You were the first. You were the first to do so much. And that's not going to change. And now you have equipment. I think we can say definitely when all that new equipment comes in, Admiral, you have equipment the likes of which the Coast Guard has never had before. So you'll have many ships sailing up instead of one. You're going to be doing things that nobody even thought possible. You have on order. Some of it's already delivered, but you have on order the best equipment anywhere in the world. There's no other Coast Guard. There's no other, frankly, Navy that has anything like what's coming your way. On September 11th, 2001, amid the rubble, dust, and debris, it was the Coast Guard that organized the largest boat lift in all of history, evacuating 500,000 people from lower Manhattan. That was a terrible day. The gleaming white hulls and the blazing red stripes cutters have sliced through the horizon of nearly every major waterway on Earth. Every day, Coast Guard members plunge into pitch black oceans, rush onto roaring surfs, and do battle with Mother Nature at her absolute worst. Mother Nature, like few can imagine it even exists. And I've seen it. I've seen things that I said, nobody's going into that storm. And you guys go into it like it's just another day of work. You fly into gale force winds, smash into 50-foot waves, storm into floods of fire and shrapnel, and swarm through water so cold that it will snap a ship in half with just the wrong hit of a wave. But your fellow Americans, and above all, you're from the Coast Guard. There's nothing, absolutely nothing, that a Coast Guardsman cannot do. There really isn't. I've seen so much. I mean, as president, I've just seen so much. I've seen people that were going to be decimated, that were going to be destroyed at sea. I told you about some of the hurricanes. They were out at sea. They were boating and they got caught. They wanted to go a little closer, a little closer, a little closer. And then they got gobbled up by nature. And the only way they could have survived was what you people were able to do. You went in there and you got them. It wasn't easy. It's very dangerous. No matter how perilous the task, you're unafraid and you're just an unstoppable force, and you want to stay that way. The U.S. Coast Guard has never, ever let us down. And with men and women like the great class of 2026, I know that will never happen. You're going to go on to greatness, the likes of which even the Coast Guard has not seen. So wherever the duty calls, whatever danger comes our way, you will fight, 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 and you will win, win, win. I want to just say a very strong God bless the Coast Guard Academy, the class of 2026. God bless the United States military, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you very much. Have a great, great, and stellar career. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
At this time, I invite the class president, Cadet Savannah Rier, to come to the stage to present the class gift.
Mr. President, on behalf of the class of 2026, I present you with this token of appreciation.
I don't know if this is a good trade. This is for Savannah. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Would you like me to take that back down there for you? Okay. Thank you.
I am now pleased to introduce Dr. Amy Donahue, Provost and Chief Academic Officer, who will share remarks and present candidates for degrees.
Please be seated. Mr. President, Mr. Secretary, Commandant, Admiral Rothrock, distinguished guests, good afternoon.
Hey, I thought that was so great. As somebody that was in the military, I could definitely appreciate that, right? Okay, let's check out what's happening in Iran. Did you guys like it? All right. I don't know. You guys are quiet tonight. All right, let me see. Let's hear from Iran and see what's going on right now. Okay. I have a little time with you today, so I want to give it to you. Huh. Why am I so little down there? Whatever.
It's out of Iran tonight about the potential consequences of renewed military action. The Revolutionary Guard says it could trigger a wider regional conflict. Iran's foreign minister adds a return to war would feature many more surprises. Ashley Webster of Fox Business is in Tel Aviv.
Iran's Revolutionary Guard is warning that it will extend the war beyond the region should the U.S. attack again, adding, quote, "Our crushing blows in places you do not expect will bring you to utter ruin." Iran is also exerting its control over the Strait of Hormuz, a vital passageway that has been effectively shut down now for 79 straight days. In the last 24 hours, though, Iran says 26 ships have passed through the strait, including 2 from China and 1 from South Korea. Analysts say Tehran is allowing vessels from favored nations to pass through, but at a cost.
And of course, they'll have to pay some of money that will be determined by the Iranians. So all the process need to go through the Iranian authorities, and only after they will get the approval by the Iranian Navy, the Revolutionary Guard Navy, only then they can get out from the straits.
In the Gulf of Oman, U.S. Marines boarded an Iranian-flagged commercial oil tanker suspected of violating the U.S. blockade. The vessel was ultimately released and ordered to change its course. CENTCOM says 91 commercial ships have now been redirected by the U.S. blockade. Iran's foreign ministry, though, responded by calling it an act of piracy. There is also little relief in sight for oil tankers that are trapped in the strait. It means the U.S. has become the supplier to the world, with the biggest impact being a growing shortage of refined products like gasoline and jet fuel. And before the conflict began, an average of 135 ships would pass through the strait. So far this month, the daily average has dropped to just 9. And analysts say even if the strait reopened tomorrow, it would take 6 months for the markets to return to normal. Brett.
Ashley Webster live in Tel Aviv. Ashley, thank you.
A new report, meanwhile, says tensions are growing between Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and President Trump over the Iran war. President Trump, however, is dismissing those rumors.
What have you said to Prime Minister Netanyahu about Iran and how long to hold off on strike?
He's fine. He'll do whatever I want him to do. He's a very, very good man. He'll do whatever I want him to do.
You're on the same page with him on Iran?
Yeah.
Okay, so just moments ago, CENTCOM releasing brand new video of Marines boarding an Iranian-flagged commercial tanker in the Gulf of Oman as part of a blockade. Take a look here. Pretty fascinating video. General Jack Keane, Fox News senior strategic analyst and chairman of the Institute for the Study of War, is joining us now. General Keane, welcome to you. Fascinating video. Tell us a little bit about what we're seeing there, as we have learned that the U.S. military said those American forces did board the vessel. They then released it after they went on board. They did a search, we are told, and then they directed the ship's crew to alter course. Can you tell us a little bit more about what went down there?
Well, we usually don't board a vehicle unless they don't abide by our instructions. If they continue to move in the direction they want to move, as opposed to halt or move to an area where we're sequestering the ships, then we board it. And usually it's going to be uncontested. We certainly, our troops who are doing it are armed. We don't expect to be in contact with the people on those ships. There's no Iranian gunmen on the ship, but we have to, as in all military situation, we got to be prepared for the unexpected. And what we did there is just take charge of that ship and direct them to where we want them to go as opposed to where they want to go. And this is the enforcement of the blockade, which has been enormously successful, as we've been reporting on now for some weeks.
This is from President Trump today, broadly speaking, on the Iran war, simply saying he is in no hurry. Listen.
We'd have to open the strait. That would open immediately. So we're going to give this one shot. I'm in no hurry. You never think, oh, the midterms, I'm in a hurry. I'm in no hurry.
What does that tell you, General?
Well, I think what the Iranians are attempting to achieve here, I mean, we're 6 weeks into a ceasefire that the original deadline was 2 weeks. And I think what the Iranians are trying to achieve here is drag these negotiations out as long as they possibly can, believing that there will be more political, economic pressure put on the president, not so much to make a deal that he doesn't want to make, but to get fed up with this thing and end it to where it is right now. That's kind of what the Iranians are doing here, and I think what he's trying to respond to them. Look, I don't feel any pressure. I'm not being persuaded by anybody's concern about political economic pressure. I'll take as long as it takes here to make a right deal. I do think we're reaching a point at whether we really can get a deal or not. I mean, 6 weeks, we've had plenty of opportunity even before that to talk to most of these same people, and a deal has been quite elusive. In my judgment, I don't think they're ever going to put a deal on the table that'll be acceptable to our president, because he's not going to take a bad deal. And I think, in my judgment, it's time to return to full-out combat operations. Listen, we've been gathering information on the Iranians for 6 weeks, and we have increased our capability in the region militarily. The Israelis have full suite of munitions and weapon systems, and we are ready to go with much better information on targeting. The effects on the Iranians are going to be quite devastating. And all the hand-wringers out there who are worried about the Iranians firing at Gulf oil and continue to disrupt the Straits of Hormuz don't understand what the impact of that military operation will have on their capabilities. I'm not suggesting there wouldn't be challenges. I'm not suggesting there wouldn't be the unexpected. That's what war is always about. And how do you deal with the unexpected, and how do you have the will to proceed and get to your final objective? I think the objective from the beginning has always made sense, Sandra. Weaken this regime, take away all of their offensive capability. They're no longer a predator in the region. They don't have a ballistic missile program of any consequence, nor do they have a nuclear capability. They're not supporting their proxies. And the regime, when we're finished, is in such a weakened state, economically and militarily, that they're vulnerable to the Iranian people in terms of their resistance. And then the last gesture I would make to the people running the regime is I'd offer them a free ticket out of there. Any place they want to go, we'll take them, and see if they take us up on that deal. If not, they want to stay there and face the Iranian people and the economic collapse that will be pending. That's certainly their choice. But we hold all the cards here, Sandra, and that's the reality of it.
Always appreciate your analysis, sir. General, thank you very much for joining us. Good to have you today.
Yeah, great talking to you.
All right,
thank
you. John?
We begin with this Fox News alert, a live look right now at New London, Connecticut. President Trump will soon deliver the commencement to cadets at the United States Coast Guard Academy. And the commander-in-chief will address the newest generation of military leaders in the Coast Guard. This is beautiful and right on time, with a possible reignition of the war on Iran that could happen the moment President Trump says go. It is day 43 of the ceasefire on life support, as I put it, and the White House says the U.S. military is locked and loaded if talks with Iran fail. I'm Harris Faulkner. You are in the Faulkner Focus. Here is Vice President J.D. Vance.
We have an opportunity here, I think, to reset the relationship that has existed between Iran and the United States for 47 years. That's what the president has asked us to do, and that's what we're going to keep on working at. But it takes two to tango. We are not going to have a deal that allows the Iranians to have a nuclear weapon. So as the president just told me, we're locked and loaded. We don't want to go down that pathway, but the president is willing and able to go down that pathway if we have to.
President Trump says Iran is feeling the pressure, and he is not ruling out anything about what comes next.
We'd have to open the strait. That would open immediately. So we're going to give this one shot. I'm in no hurry. You never think, oh, the midterms, I'm in a hurry. I'm in no hurry. Ideally, I'd like to see few people killed as opposed to a lot. We can do it either way, but I'd like to see few people killed. What we've done is amazing, and we have them decimated. Iran is decimated.
Former CENTCOM Naval Forces Commander Vice Admiral John Fozzie Miller is with me. I'll go first, though, to Chief Foreign Correspondent Trey Yingst. Trey.
Harris, good morning. President Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu reportedly held a lengthy phone call overnight as the region waits to see if the war will resume. Earlier, President Trump discussed his relationship and coordination with the Israeli leader.
What have you said to Prime Minister Netanyahu about Iran and how long to hold off on strikes?
He's fine. He'll do whatever I want him to do. He's a very, very good man. He'll do whatever I want him to do, and he's a great guy. To me, he's a great guy.
You're on the same page with him on Iran?
Yeah.
These comments come amid a massive U.S. military buildup across the Middle East. New video shows U.S. refuelers parked at Tel Aviv's Ben Gurion airport, waiting in case President Trump orders new strikes against the Iranian regime. Overnight, Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps released a new threat, warning the United States and Israel against launching another bombing campaign. The IRGC put out a statement saying if the aggression against Iran is repeated, the regional war that was promised will this time go beyond the borders of the region, and you will be dealt crushing blows in places you do not expect, and you will fall into the abyss of defeat and destruction. The threat comes as President Trump says he was just an hour away from deciding to strike Iran earlier this week and is giving the regime a few additional days to reach a deal. As for the possibility of an agreement, reports do indicate there are still serious gaps in the positions of the United States and Iran. Vice President J.D. Vance was asked about this process yesterday.
So what we've done is try to be as clear as possible. What are our red lines? What are the things that we're willing to be accommodating on? And what are the things that we absolutely must have? And as the president has said ad nauseum, and I think I've said it a lot too, Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon.
Inside Iran, the regime has released new videos showing civilians learning how to use small arms. A variety of similar videos have been published in recent days as Iran vows to fight the United States.
Definitely we will stand against them and won't give up even an inch of our soil. We are even ready to sacrifice our blood, our lives, instead of giving them an inch of our soil. No matter they come from the sea or land, we will stand by our flag.
Overnight, the Israelis held a 5-hour cabinet meeting preparing for the possibility that the war resumes. Harris?
Trey, thank you very much. Let's go now to Lieutenant Colonel Robert McGinnis and what he had to say in this new opinion piece for FoxNews.com. He argues that the United States faces a fundamental fork in the road. And here's part of it. The real fork is not escalation versus diplomacy. It is this: accept a nuclear-capable Iran as the permanent outcome of this war, or accept the cost of physically removing the threat. Washington should make that decision deliberately, not by default, when the ceasefire finally collapses. All of that a quote. In focus with me now, Vice Admiral John Fozzie Miller, former Central Command Naval Forces Commander. Great to have you, sir. So what is your reaction to the idea that this is really bifurcated, one thing or the other?
Well, I think, Harrison, thanks for having me. It's really always been that at the end of the conflict, Iran wasn't going to be able to develop or have a nuclear weapon for their employment somewhere in the region or elsewhere in the world. And so it's sort of crystallized, I think, in everyone's mind now. But a satisfactory outcome has to include the fact that the Iranians will not have access to a nuclear weapon. They won't be able to develop a nuclear weapon.
Yeah, what I caught there, and I mean, I've heard this, and like you say, we know this. You didn't say end of ceasefire. You said the end of the conflict, which can be something very different depending on what happens next. An op-ed argues Iran is gambling that President Trump will cave. It hasn't gone well for them so far. And, quote, if the Islamic Republic continues testing American resolve, the next confrontation may no longer resemble calibrated deterrence. It may become the moment that determines whether Trump's Iran doctrine was merely pressure or the beginning of historic change. Your take?
Well, I think the president's been very clear that one way or another, at the conclusion of the conflict, Iran will not be able to have a nuclear weapon, and they won't be able to threaten their neighbors and do things like close the Strait of Hormuz. He would obviously prefer to do that through some sort of a negotiation, but he's also clearly indicated that if he has to resort to combat power, he'll do that. And the combat power is available. It's there. It's ready. And I think it's very clear to the Iranian regime, that they're not going to prevail in this conflict one way or another. And I think they're beginning to get an understanding that the president has a lot of patience, but that patience is not without limit.
Right. And this idea that their country can kind of outlast ours is a bit ridiculous anyway, because they're the people who got hit in the first place and didn't see it coming. Vice Admiral, I am curious about a little bit of strategy now. Exactly what happens if we're so-called locked and loaded, like the White House says?
Well, there's a number of ways this could go, and the president has a whole range of options available to him. What I would expect, though, is that we would see immediate pressure on their leadership once again. So the potential for additional decapitation strikes. I think a lot of pressure on their command and control systems, the systems that allow them to communicate from Tehran or wherever they are down into the Strait of Hormuz region to the Revolutionary Guard folks, and then a lot of pressure in the Strait of Hormuz itself against potential cruise missile sites, places where they can launch drones, and of course against the small boats that they like to send out into the Gulf to harass the shipping. And I think you'll see a focus on all of that as a way to move the negotiations forward, or the conditions for the negotiations forward. And then absent that, I think you'll see a greater sense of warfare across the country again.
Kashim, Karg Islands, those areas that we know are tremendously important to the oil infrastructure, and any way that they can get a source of cash into that country, Iran. Do we go after those islands with our military?
I don't know that there's a need to go after Karg Island, because things are pretty quiet there right now and have been for several weeks, because the Iranians can't find ships to get into Karg Island to fill them up and export their oil. So that part of the blockade has been extraordinarily effective. There are some other islands closer to the strait that we might be interested in occupying for a period of time, because it helps with control of the strait. At the end of the day, the United States doesn't want control of the strait. We want the strait to be open for everyone to use.
All right, Vice Admiral, the president is getting ready to speak. Just a quick thought about what you'd like to hear him say on Iran as he talks with the Coast Guard cadets today.
Well, first of all, congratulations to them and welcome. We're glad to have them on board the team. Coast Guards are a great partner of all of the armed forces. I think the president will be pretty clear. Forces like the Coast Guard will play in the conclusion of the Iran conflict, whether it's a deterrent as a hedge against further aggression on the part of the United States in order to end the conflict, or their actual participation in combat operations, and an understanding that when we get the Iran conflict concluded, we still live in a difficult and dangerous world, and organizations like the Coast Guard, which ensure freedom of navigation all over the place, as well as safety of our mariners, is incredibly important. And they're entering a brave new world, and we're certainly glad to have them on board.
Vice Admiral John Fozzie Miller, I can tell how many men and women you have led. You were so prepared with that. I appreciate it. As a leader, sir, it's humbling. Thank you. Good to see you.
Thank you.
And this is America's Newsroom. First, the news, the U.S.-Iran standoff putting the Mideast on edge. The Israeli military remains on high alert. This is Iran issues a new threat to the United States, saying that renewed fighting would trigger a wider war extending beyond the Middle East.
So, Danny, you've got this U.S. blockade pushing Iran's economy to its breaking point. That blockade is working. The White House keeping up the pressure as they try to work out a deal, but there are other options that still are on the table.
They come to the table, they're begging to make a deal, because they're begging to make a deal. I hope we don't have to do the war, but we may have to give them another big hit. We may have to give them another big hit. I'm not sure yet.
What I think is that the Iranians want to make a deal. What I think is that the Iranians recognize that a nuclear weapon is the red line for the United States of America, that they've internalized that. But we're not going to know until we're actually putting pen to paper on signing a deal.
And Trey Yinks is following all of this from Tel Aviv. Hi, Trey.
Dana, good morning. President Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu reportedly held a lengthy phone call amid questions about if the war will resume. This comes amid a massive U.S. military buildup across the region, and we're getting some new video that shows U.S. refuelers parked at Tel Aviv's Ben Gurion airport, waiting in case President Trump orders new strikes against the regime. Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps released a new threat overnight, warning the United States and Israel against launching another bombing campaign. The IRGC put out a statement saying if the aggression against Iran is repeated, the regional war that was promised will this time go beyond the borders of the region, and you will be dealt crushing blows in places you do not expect, and you will fall into the abyss of defeat and destruction. The threat comes as President Trump says he was just an hour away from deciding to strike Iran earlier this week and is giving the regime a few additional days to reach a deal.
How close were you to striking Iran?
I was an hour away. We were all set to go. You're talking about yesterday.
Yes.
We were going to be striking it would have been happening right now. Yeah, it was all done. The boats, the ships are all loaded. They're loaded to the brim. And we were all set to start.
As for the possibility of an agreement, reports indicate there are still serious gaps in the positions of the United States and Iran. Vice President J.D. Vance was asked about this process yesterday.
So what we've done is tried to be as clear as possible. What are our red lines? What are the things that we're willing to be accommodating on? And what are the things that we absolutely must have? And as the president has said ad nauseum, and I think I've said it a lot too, Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon.
Inside Iran, the regime has released new videos showing civilians learning how to use small arms. A variety of similar videos were published in recent days as Iran vows to fight the United States.
Definitely, we will stand against them, the Americans, and won't give up even an inch of our soil. We are even ready to sacrifice our blood, our lives, instead of giving them an inch of our soil. No matter they come from the sea or land, we will stand by our flag.
Overnight, the Israelis held a 5-hour cabinet meeting preparing for the possibility that the war resumes. As the Iranians are talking, the United States and Israel are preparing. Dana?
Trey Yanks in Tel Aviv, thank you.
So with us now, former commander of the USS Cole, Kirk Lippold, is back here. And sir, thank you for coming back to our program, and good morning to you.
Morning, Bill.
What's the smart money say? Are we going back to war or not?
For 47 years, Bill, Iran has used time to their advantage in order to carry out terrorist attacks around the world. I think it's a matter of not if, but when we are going to unfortunately have to continue combat operations, because the Iranians are still coming to the table. They are refusing to negotiate. They are engaged in information warfare, clearly indicating that the IRGC is unwilling to give up power. So therefore, they're putting the United States in the awkward position, despite this diplomacy, that we are going to have to continue this fight in order to bring them further to their knees and make them realize what our red lines are and that they must give in to them.
They play for time, and they also break agreements. So Jack Keane was on with Hannity last night. He has some thoughts as well. Watch here.
We're 6 weeks into what was supposed to be a 2-week deadline to get a deal. The reality is they will work very hard and with major acceleration to do what? To turn that deal around, to reverse it, to cheat on it. And the only way you could ever make a deal that would have a long-term effect would be if we were making a deal with other people, not these people who are running the regime. So there's limitations to the deal itself. And the president's not going to make a bad deal here.
Kurt, even if there was no more war or a return to that or hitting them again, things have changed. The Strait of Hormuz is different, and it's closed, at least right now. It's not, nothing is moving. So is there another way around dealing with that problem?
Dana, right now, there is no way unless we return to combat operations. Clearly, Iran is going to use the Strait of Hormuz and the chokehold that they have on the world's oil supply going out from the Middle East as a leverage point, and we are going to have to engage at some point to do that. General Keane was absolutely correct. When you look at it, it is going to take any deal we have has got to be verified, verified, verified. There is no trust with the Iranians. And at the end of the day, in order to get that strait open, what the last few weeks have given us during this time is not only the ability to kind of give a little bit of crew rest, get some training in, make sure that we can do the maintenance, rearm and refuel. It has also given us the opportunity to build out the target set that is available to us, the Israelis, UAE, and the Saudis, so that if combat operations recommence, it is going to be on a much larger scale. It is going to hit them that much harder. And while the blockade is being effective, the calculus of the strategic deterrent deterrence that's going to be enforced to ensure that we bring the Iranian economy to its knees. We have to start hitting some of those key logistics, transportation nodes, as well as their ability to get oil out, because they cannot be refunded by getting the oil to the world, especially China. We're sending a signal in their direction as well.
So the Iranians have a vote in this. They can either give up their nukes and agree to talk about it or not. Here's the Iranian foreign minister with a big claim about an F-35. Watch here. Okay, I'll read it. Okay. Tuesday, 5 o'clock. Months after initiation of war on Iran, U.S. Congress acknowledges loss of dozens of aircraft worth billions. Our powerful armed forces are confirmed as first to strike down a touted F-35. With lessons learned and knowledge we gain, return to war will feature many more surprises. That is not true. No evidence that an F-35 was even came close to being down there. However, if we go back to military action, the Iranians do what then? How do they respond? How would you expect them to respond?
I think they're going to respond with the limited capacity that they have available. They are probably going to take what they have for cruise missile batteries and others, begin to aim at ships throughout the Gulf. They're also going to continue to hit some of the strategic oil facilities in all of the Gulf countries, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, Oman, Qatar, UAE. They're going to try and strike back at those facilities. And I think the United States has worked very well with our partners throughout the Middle East to ensure that we can protect those facilities. But at the end of the day, Iran is essentially going to wage guerrilla warfare with their ballistic missile and their cruise missiles and drones throughout the area. And we're going to have to learn very quickly and adapt. Where are they firing them from, and what do we have to do to take down that capability? Because otherwise, this campaign could go on. But at the end of the day, Vice President Vance was correct. We cannot negotiate with the people that are in power right now. We need to get some people who are going to be reasonable. Hopefully, we can create that exodus of leadership of the IRGC and what is left of the mullahs. Let them get out of the country, whether they go to Russia, China, or elsewhere. It doesn't matter. They need to be removed from power so that we can have a fruitful discussion that will allow us to achieve some of the strategic objectives with no nuclear weapons.
Kurt Lippold, thank you so much for being on today with us.
Thank you, Commander.
Thank you, Dana. Thank you, Bill.
New at 2, CENTCOM sharing new video of Marines boarding an Iranian flag tanker suspected of trying to breach the U.S. blockade of Iranian ports. Now among the 91 ships that U.S. forces have redirected in the Middle East. As President Trump talks to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and makes it clear he is calling the shots.
What have you said to Prime Minister Netanyahu about Iran and how long to hold off on strikes?
He's fine. He'll do whatever I want him to do. He's very, very good man. He'll do whatever I want him to do, and he's a great guy. To me, he's a great guy. Don't forget, he was a wartime prime minister, and he's not treated right in Israel, in my opinion.
Chief Foreign Correspondent Trey Yingst is live in Tel Aviv with the latest from there. Hi, Trey.
Hey, John, good afternoon. Iran's parliament speaker and top negotiator Mohammad Khalibaf spoke today, saying it's the United States that is seeking another round of war. He added in a statement, for the sake of reassuring the dear people of Iran, I want to say that our military forces have used the opportunity provided by the ceasefire to rebuild their military strength as best as possible. His comments were echoed by Iran's foreign minister, who spoke today from Tehran, saying that he and Iranian commanders are on the same page.
Should it become necessary, should the interests of the state dictate that we prepare ourselves in the field of diplomacy, of discussion, of negotiation, then we will prepare ourselves. But with strength, the same strength with which the armed forces prepare themselves in defense of the country.
Right now, there is a massive U.S. military buildup across the region. New video shows U.S. refuelers parked at Tel Aviv's Ben Gurion airport, waiting in case President Trump orders new strikes against the regime. Focus toward a deal that would avoid a military confrontation remains on the Strait of Hormuz and Iran's nuclear program. Today, President Trump reiterated his commitment to make sure Iran never obtains a nuclear weapon.
People don't want them to have a nuclear weapon, and they will not have a nuclear weapon, and they want to make a deal so badly. We'll see what happens, but we hit them very hard, but we may have to hit them even harder, but maybe not. But we're not going to let Iran have a nuclear weapon and blow up the entire Middle East, Israel, the entire Middle East, and then come here for you. Not going to happen.
Overnight, President Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu reportedly held a lengthy phone call as questions remain about if this war will resume. John?
All right, we shall see. Trey Inks for us in Tel Aviv. Thank you, Trey. Sandra?
All right, let's bring in retired Navy Rear Admiral Mark Montgomery, Senior Fellow at the Foundation for Defense of Democracy. Welcome to you, sir. First up, the latest sound from President Trump as he visited the Coast Guard Academy earlier today. Here's what he said on the latest negotiations with Iran. Listen.
We'd have to open the strait. That would open immediately. So we're going to give this one shot. I'm in no hurry. You never think, oh, the midterms, I'm in a hurry. I'm in no hurry. Ideally, I'd like to see few people killed as opposed to a lot. We can do it either way. There's a lot of anger now in Iran because people are living so badly. There's a lot of foment that we haven't seen before so much, and we'll see what happens.
Sir, what does that tell you about what happens next year?
Well, I like those remarks. The president's showing patience, discipline. He's going to allow the blockade to take its toll on the Iranian economy, and we know it is. Blocking these ships blocks a very high, upwards of 90% of their exports, and therefore significant impact on the economy. I think the president's taking the right approach here with discipline and patience.
Admiral, this is what appears to be the crucial question for many of us. This directly from Lieutenant Colonel Robert McGinnis. He says it now comes down to one brutal question. What comes next? The United States faces a fundamental fork in the road, he says. One path leads towards kinetic escalation, risking broader regional and global catastrophe. The other leads toward a calibrated off-ramp. The hard question is whether that off-ramp actually exists. So what say you, does it?
I do believe that if he continues to pressure the economy through an effective blockade, if he has the political bandwidth to do that domestically, in other words, he should be worried about gas prices and inflation and such. However, a president that's looking to remove the Iranian nuclear threat has to take some risk on that domestic side. That means the discipline and patience to choke the Iranians' economy so that politically he eventually gets a better offer at the table. What he's getting at the table, whether it's 5 points or 10 points or 15 points, they're all the same and they're all unacceptable from the Iranians.
Obviously there's these rumors over Netanyahu and Trump and what's going on behind closed doors. President Trump seemed to put that to rest earlier, but this is the Israeli ambassador to the U.S., specifically on President Trump's phone call with Netanyahu, said this. Listen.
Obviously, as things unravel in the negotiations with Iran, the prime minister and the president talk and discuss what the possibilities are. If we'll be asked to go back into kinetic activity with the United States side by side, shoulder to shoulder, wing to wing, we're ready to do it. We consider ourselves your model ally and junior partner. What the president decides will fall in line.
I'll give you your final thought on that, Admiral.
Well, they have been a model ally in this, and it's important for the two leaders to talk. There's a few things that have to be settled. Does this mean strikes into Lebanon against Hezbollah are back on the table when we go for the broader strikes against Iran? Because there's no doubt that Hezbollah can be used by Iran to strike Israel. So that issue has to be resolved between the two. And then, of course, the timing of an attack. If the president decides that the blockade's not functioning, that Iran isn't changing, then we need to go back in. We want to go back in with 1,000 strikes a day, which is us plus Iran, not 600 or 700 strikes a day, which is us alone. So us plus Israel. So integration with Israel is critical. Those phone calls drive the relationship.
Admiral Montgomery, appreciate your time today. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you for having me.
Okay.
Good morning. As we wait the president, we're learning more about Iran's new threat. The Revolutionary Guard, the IRGC, pledging to expand the war beyond the current region if the U.S. launches new strikes.
And President Trump still weighing that option after calling off an attack he says could have happened yesterday. Trump suggests another big hit is still on the table and U.S. forces stand ready to strike. President Trump weighing in just a few moments ago.
On Iran, just a limited deal, just for a longer ceasefire.
We'd have to open the strait. That would open immediately. So we're going to give this one shot. I'm in no hurry. You never think, oh, the midterms, I'm in a hurry. I'm in no hurry. Ideally, I'd like to see few people killed as opposed to a lot. We can do it either way, but I'd like to see few people killed. I just wonder whether or not they have the good of the people, because some of the things they're doing to me means they don't have the good of the people, and they have to have the good of the people. There's a lot of anger now in Iran because people are living so badly. There's a lot of foment that we haven't seen before so much, and we'll see what happens.
All right, let's get to it. Rich Edson reports live from the White House. Jeff Paul reports live in Dubai, and that's where we begin in a new hour with you, Jeff. Hello.
Yeah, Bill, and countries here in the Gulf like the UAE find themselves at a bit of a standstill. They were able to convince the U.S. to hold off on that planned attack of Iran in favor of negotiations. But if a deal isn't somehow struck, President Trump says that he has ordered the U.S. forces to be on standby and to be ready to respond. He says Iran now has essentially 2 or 3 days to reach a deal to end this war. In response, Iran has issued a new warning saying, quote, if the aggression against Iran is repeated, the regional war that was promised will this time go beyond the borders of the region, and you will be dealt crushing blows in places you do not expect, and you will fall into the abyss of defeat and destruction. The IRGC is now reportedly even teaching civilians how to use assault rifles as they prepare for the possibility of a return to war.
I'm here to learn how to use a gun so that if a war starts, I can use a gun and do something. This is necessary for all of our people to get trained because we are in a war situation these days. If necessary, everyone should be available and know how to use a gun.
As talks continue, Gulf Arab states are now becoming more entangled in the conflict. The UAE confirmed its air defenses intercepted 6 drones, all launched from Iraqi territory. One recent drone attack even managed to reach the country's nuclear power plant. Emirati officials told the UN Security Council the incident is a dangerous escalation.
The region cannot continue to be pulled toward deeper instability by terrorists and extremists, threatening civilians, critical infrastructure, international shipping, and now nuclear safety. The Security Council must ensure that such attacks do not continue with impunity.
Now, we're also tracking some reports that 2 Chinese vessels and 1 South Korean vessel are trying to get through the Strait of Hormuz, even though if that happens, they're going to have to get through that U.S. blockade that is still in place. Bill.
All right, Jeff, thanks. Jeff Paul, Dubai, reporting today. Thank you.
Let's bring in retired Vice Admiral Mark Fox. His nearly 40-year career in the Navy includes his service as commander of U.S. Naval Forces Central Command. Admiral, it's great to have you on the show, as always. You think the president should restart military activities, reopen the Strait of Hormuz? I'm just curious, sir, how does that work exactly?
Well, you know, this president is unconventional, he's unorthodox, and he's unpredictable. And that's one of his strengths right now. I think he's been able to keep people off balance. I do think, personally, that there's no way in the world that we can accomplish all of our objectives in the region without having further combat actions. I just don't see how it can happen. But I've been wrong before. We'll see. The Strait of Hormuz actually is not closed. It's a matter of whether or not you want to take the risk to go through there. But we need to have full and open freedom of navigation very soon here so that we can allow the rest of the world to benefit from the energy that flows from that part of the world.
You talk about unpredictable. I want to put this up on the screen. This is the Iranian parliament speaker, Galibaf, on Telegram today. He writes the following here. Our powerful military forces have used the opportunity of the ceasefire in the best possible way to rebuild our military strength. And with the grace of God and the support of the people today, they are so prepared that they will surprise the enemy and will certainly regret attacking Iran. It sounds like they're almost taunting the United States. Sir, what do you think about that comment?
Well, anything that comes out of the regime, the government of Iran is suspect. They're playing for time. They're trying to create as much opportunity for them to try to rebuild. Militarily, they have no capability. They have very, very limited ability to influence anything. At the same time, they do have some residual capability in small boats and with drones and so forth. takes me back to I don't see how we can go forward and accomplish all of our stated objectives without having some return to full combat operations.
Yeah, I'm also kind of curious because there's been a lot of talk about Cargill and what happens. I mean, does it include this strategy going after Cargill and holding it at least? Maybe not destroying the oil wells, but holding it. And how long would that campaign last? I mean, does the American population have the patience for something like that?
I personally wouldn't recommend that we go and take Cargill, and we can certainly disable their ability to load oil. You know, our campaign, the combat campaign that we had before, very carefully avoided certain target sets, which includes the electrical grid, their telecommunications, a lot of the things that we would call dual use. So there are certainly a number of other things that we are capable of striking, which are legitimate military targets. I would not recommend that we go and take Cargill. There are other options. There are other places that we can go that will create difficulties for the Iranians. I would not, though, plan or recommend that we take Cargill. Cargill is just a big industrial place that's just off the coast. It's not that far away. So if we took it, then there would be, constant opportunity for them to take pot shots at us from the shore.
Yeah, I wanted to pose this to you. Lastly, this is from the Institute for the Study of War, saying, quote, other factors such as, but not limited to, a proven threat to regime stability could trigger a rethink among Iranian leaders about their negotiation positions. Iranian leaders have proven that they care little for the economic well-being of the Iranian people beyond the impact the economic well-being of the people has on the regime. I mean, it's one of those things, we kind of know this all along, sir, but it's worth restating that there's not a lot of concern for what's happened to the citizens, but there's a big concern about the IRGC and the Basij and so on and so forth.
Yeah, the Iranian regime has not changed their stripes. What I would expect if we go back into combat operations is that there would be other opportunities. I think in particular the Mossad has penetrated the Iranian regime fairly significantly. When you think about the capability that was demonstrated at the very beginning of the early campaign back in late February, early March, in which dozens of Iranian leaders were killed in the opening minutes. That's some remarkable capability. And I would fully expect that if we resumed combat operations, those people would also be in that list.
Vice Admiral Mark Fox, thank you, sir. We appreciate your time as always.
Okay, John.
Senator, let's bring in retired Air Force General John Teichert for more on this and the possibility that this could expand beyond where it was in the initial stages. So Iran threatening a wider war now if the U.S. resumes its attacks. Ibrahim Zolfagari is the spokesperson for the IRGC. He put this out on X. He said, IRGC warns any new attack on Iran could spark a wider war beyond the region, vowing crippling blows in unexpected places. We are a people of war. You will see our strength on the battlefield, not online. I mean, that's the latest missive from the land of empty threats, but she could be talking about terror attacks.
So I think that this is classic deterrent theory where he's trying to sow seeds of doubt in our minds that they could raise the risks or the costs if we started to re-enter the kinetic fight. But I don't think that we have seen any new capability from Iran that has been created in the last 6 weeks or anything they likely would have held back from the previous kinetic activity. So I think these are all hollow threats. And I do think that we're marching towards, because of their bad faith negotiations, renewal of kinetic activity regardless of those hollow threats.
Well, if you thought that was something, how about from the commander of the IRGC, Ahmad Vahidi, who put this out just a short time ago. If any further aggression is committed against the soil of Iran, that fire, whose promise was previously given and remained confined within the framework of a limited regional war, this time will erupt into flames and transcend every border and domain. You will receive devastating blows that will leave you in abject defeat and consign your ignominy to the annals of history. mean, that's wartime roomy stuff going on there. But I mean, but what are they going to do?
No, exactly right. They don't have any additional capability, like I said, that they've kept on the shelf that now they're going to pull off the shelf and use. I think Vahidi and others' words are inflammatory. They're trying to play into the president's psyche and our psyche to deter us from doing what I think we're ultimately going to do, which is renew kinetic activity.
Right. You saw pictures of this in the segment that Sandra just did. And that is that the IRGC is now training civilians to use AK-47s. And I'm thinking to myself, you sure you want to give weapons to the civilian population? They'll probably be checking very carefully who they're giving the weapons to. But here's the thing. Unless American troops invade Iran, which they're not going to, I mean, this is all just for public consumption. It just looks like so much BS.
It is, and it's probably for their own internal consumption to try to demonstrate that they're in charge, they're deterring us, and that they can deal with any eventuality. But the reality is that we have escalation dominance, and if the president so chooses to renew kinetic activity, then there are target sets like Karg Island that have yet to be prosecuted that could do severe damage to the regime and their ability to function.
So if you go after Karg Island, what do you do? Because if you take out the infrastructure of Karg, that's going to set back any chance of reconstruction in Iran, which will be needed for a long time and will probably trigger Iran to start hitting oil facilities of Gulf countries.
Well, first of all, they've been hitting oil facilities of Gulf countries consistently during the war. They could. I think that you do it in the way where you gradually strike 10% of Karg's capability. You take a pause, you say a week from now, we're going to strike another 10% of Karg. And I think ultimately that escalation dominance gets the attention of the regime because they realize that not only can they not recreate that capability, but the capability of the regime to fund itself is strangled once Karg is gone.
All right. General, always good to catch up with you.
Also, we want to talk to you about this topic. Two allies standing shoulder to shoulder. President Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu reportedly held a long phone conversation last night. It was being described as lengthy and dramatic. Moments ago, President Trump praised the Israeli leader as he weighs a renewal of military action against Iran.
What have you said to Prime Minister Netanyahu about Iran and how long to hold off on strikes?
He's fine. He'll do whatever I want him to do. He's very, very good man. He'll do whatever I want him to do, and he's a great guy. To me, he's a great guy. Don't forget, he was a wartime prime minister, and he's not treated right in Israel, in my opinion. I'm right now at 99% in Israel. I could run for prime minister, so maybe after I do this, I'll go to Israel, run for prime minister.
Joining us now is Dr. Michael Leiter, Israel's ambassador to the United States. Sir, to the extent that it's possible, can you describe the conversation that was held last night?
Well, actually, it was a rather short conversation, and it wasn't very dramatic. Many of the conversations are long and somewhat dramatic. But look, the president and the prime minister go back some 40 years. They have a very close personal relationship. They have a tremendous degree of respect for each other. And obviously, as things unravel in the negotiations with Iran, the prime minister and the president talk and discuss what the possibilities are. And as the president said, if we'll be asked to go back into kinetic activity with the United States side by side, shoulder to shoulder, wing to wing, we're ready to do it. We consider ourselves your model ally and junior partner. And what the president decides will fall in line.
Here's what General Keane said last night on Hannity about there being some limitations to dealing with Iran.
No matter what they sign on a piece of paper, the reality is they will work very hard and with major acceleration to do what? To turn that deal around, to reverse it, to cheat on it. The only way you could ever make a deal that would have a long-term effect would be if we were making a deal with other people, not these people who are running the regime. So there's limitations to the deal itself.
The Iranians continue to put out some ideas for what they think should be in a deal. Those are unacceptable to the United States and to Israel. So how does this impasse get broken?
You know, people are surprised when they discover that people who murder people also happen to lie. The Ayatollahs are mass murderers. They killed 40,000 of their own people just a few months ago, and they lie. So any potential deal would have to be, let's say, distrust and verify. It would always have to be completely verifiable. The people of Iran want change. The people of the region want change. If there's a deal which will allow Iran to continue to pursue nuclear weapons, the capability to pursue nuclear weapons. If there's a deal that would include a ballistic missile program that could continue to hold the countries in the region hostage, for example, in the Straits of Hormuz, or if there's a deal which would allow Iran to continue to fund its proxies, the Houthis, the Hezbollah, and the Hamas, all intent on the destruction not only of Israel, but of domination of the region, that would be a bad deal. And we're quite confident that the President of the United States, the leader of the free world, who has a full appreciation for the responsibilities of the United States in the present situation, would never allow a deal like that to take place.
The Iranian supreme leader posted this, that among the most valuable achievements of the Third Sacred Defense against the American and Zionist invasion is the emergence of Iran at the level of a major influential power. I'm sure that you would disagree with that, but I also wanted to play this. This is from Admiral Brad Cooper about what is happening in the region now to prevent another October 7th.
Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis have been cut off from the decades-long flow of military supplies, and thus mitigating and eliminating any chance of a future October 7th.
Do you see that as a major accomplishment, and can it be sustained?
Well, it is a major accomplishment of our brave soldiers in the IDF. We're now sitting in Gaza, we're sitting in southern Lebanon, and we're not going to move until there's an assurance that we can't have October 7th again. We cannot have jihadis that are proxies of Iran sitting on our borders. They make no secret of their intent to destroy our country, to slaughter as many people as possible. That's what happened October 7th. They keep repeating they'd like to do it again. So we don't have territorial ambitions in any of these places. We have one ambition, and that's to provide security for our people. Since then, we've been accused of the most horrific things, of genocide and starvation and so on. None of that happened. It was a big, bold lie. It was a blood libel against the people of Israel. We've actually just produced a booklet debunking that myth of genocide in Gaza. It's very important to go online in the embassy and get the facts. This is not an issue of feelings. This is an issue of facts. And the facts are there never was a genocide. There never was ethnic cleansing. There never was starvation. We fought this war against Hamas, one of the worst terrorist organizations in the world, with our hands tied behind our back because it was densely urban, because they were holding our hostages. And we did everything we possibly can to limit collateral damage, which we were successful in doing, better than any other urban war that was conducted in recent history. So it's important to get the facts, to stop this narrative of demonizing and delegitimizing the state of Israel. We're there in order to protect our people, and that's what we're going to continue to do.
Mr. Ambassador, thank you for being on the show today.
Thank you, Dan.
Hey, everyone. I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-host, Harris.
Are you guys doing okay? I see y'all going at it in the chat. These next clips are really short. Before I bid you guys good night, okay? I'm just going to touch bases on a couple of things with you. What was I?
Steven Spielberg's waiting for a call back. He made half his career off Aliens, but they never stopped by.
I've made all these movies where I've kind of played an ambassadorial role. They've never shown themselves to me. Why is that? It's so unfair.
We all grew up watching his movies. Back then it felt like science fiction, but now, not so much.
When I made Close Encounters, for me, it was a story that I thought, wouldn't it be great when this movie comes out? Wouldn't it be great if people like this movie, they come out and they see Close Encounters? And wouldn't it be great if this someday could all come true?
Congress wants answers too. House Republicans think private contractors know something we don't. One congressman just sent a letter to MIT demanding a classified video called Flying Saucer Talk from the 50s. The first batch of the files dropped a few weeks ago. The Department of War says more are coming soon. Not sure what the holdup is. It's not like Pete's been busy with anything. But we're just scratching the surface. These files have been buried for decades, and the deep state doesn't want them out. But they're coming. And we're hearing they're pretty big.
But I think they're taking it so serious that we're gonna get to more tranches of more meaningful evidence, and I think eventually we'll get to that thing that moment that we've all only seen in movies, where a sitting president steps to a microphone and tells the world we're not alone in the universe.
Missouri Congressman Eric Burleson joins us now. Congressman, why would universities have material on aliens? How did that happen?
Yeah, so MIT Lincoln Labs is one of the many federally funded research and development centers. These are quasi-private public entities that have a sole mission of doing long-term research on projects, and their sole client is the United States government. So this is the exact type of location that we should be searching for a topic like this. And that's why information, documents, videos that are in the possession of these federally funded research and development centers, whether it's MIT Lincoln Labs, RAND Corporation, MITRE, and others, that's where we're taking our investigation.
Are they handing documents over, or are they saying, don't come knocking?
You know, so we sent a letter to MIT Lincoln Labs, and they responded immediately, their legal team did, that they would comply with our letter. We just received word from Michael Thomas, who is the National Records and Archives and Records, that they're cooperating with MIT Lincoln Labs, working with the Department of War to coordinate the release of a 1952 video from an individual from Project Blue Book by the name of Edward J. Ruppelt, who was briefing these scientists about the incursion of UFOs in the United States.
Okay, well, that could be groundbreaking. I guess, first batch we got, pretty eye-opening. We expect more. What do you expect to see on the next drop?
So there's a lot of videos that we had received word from insiders. We had a list of video files. We sent those to the Department of War requesting access to be able to be briefed on those. We have been briefed. Representative Luna, myself, and Burchett and others sat in a room and watched 52 videos. And it was some of these videos that have not been made public yet. Some of them are very interesting. I don't want to get people's hopes up. There's a lot of videos, and I think that the way that the administration is going about this is the right way, but just keep in mind, a lot of these videos have not been explained, but as you watch some of them, you'll see that some of them are clearly balloons or birds, but there's also some things in there that are very interesting.
Are you a believer?
I'm not. I'm a skeptic, Jesse. I'm still a skeptic, but I'm doing my job. I'm on oversight. I'm following the investigation where it takes me, and I'm keeping an open mind. I'm just trying to stick to the facts. But what I will point out to you is that one of the documents that people are kind of overlooking in that first batch is towards the very end. It's a document that's named U.S. Per Statement about UAP Sightings. And in that report, you have officials, high-level intelligence officers, government officials who all reported seeing an incursion at one of our military bases in which they had an orange orb that was producing or disseminating other red types of orbs. This was cited not by people in a tinfoil hat and a van down by the river. This is our own government officials, and so that's a credible document that everybody should be looking at.
Wow, that sounds pretty interesting. We're looking forward to getting our hands on more stuff. Congressman, thank you so much for pushing this. Be sure to like.
Okay, if you guys didn't hear, Raul Castro has. Well, I'll just show it for you. Show it to you before I go to sleep. We're in on this one, okay? With I think I have it here. We're in on this. Good morning, Mahogany. Thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate you. Okay, guys.
Just indicted Fidel Castro's little brother.
Today, we are announcing an indictment
Did you guys
charging
hear about
Raul
this?
Castro and several others with conspiracy to kill U.S. nationals.
Raul Castro, one of the last surviving members of the Cuban Revolution, is being charged with conspiracy to kill Americans, destruction of aircraft, and murder. In '96, Havana shot down 2 planes full of Cuban-American exiles leaving Miami who were trying to save their brothers from Castro's clutches.
For nearly 30 years, the families of 4 murdered Americans have waited for justice. They were unarmed civilians and were flying humanitarian missions for the rescue and protection of people fleeing oppression across the Florida Straits. As alleged in the indictment, Raul Castro and 5 co-defendants participated in a conspiracy that ended with Cuban military aircraft firing missiles at those civilian planes and killing 4 Americans.
The Florida grand jury was presented evidence of Raul Castro ordering the hit. U.S. intelligence has him on tape. The president of the United States has a lot of balls in the air, but he's been thinking a lot about that island, 90 miles off our coast.
We have Cuba on our mind. Very important. Been a lot of problems for a lot of years, and this was I think it was a very big moment for people that, not only Cuban Americans, but people that came from Cuba, that want to go back to Cuba, people that want to see their family in Cuba. I think this is a very big day, very important day.
CIA Director John Ratcliffe was just in Havana last week, meeting with Cuban officials, including Raul's grandson. Ratcliffe gave the Cubans a do-or-die ultimatum. And Rubio's already celebrating Cuban Independence Day. He sent him a message offering the Cuban people an olive branch.
In the U.S., we are ready to open a new chapter in the relationship between our people and our countries. And currently, the only thing standing in the way of a better future are those who control your country.
The USS Nimitz, an aircraft carrier strike group, has just arrived in the Caribbean on the same day as the Castro indictment. What a coincidence. U.S. Southern Command says this is just a regularly scheduled exercise, just doing drills with some of our South American allies. Yeah. Or there's a chance that Castro is about to get Maduro'd. Havana could fall at any time because the regime's not getting free oil from Venezuela. The island's suffering from blackouts 23 out of 24 hours a day. Communism wrecked what used to be a paradise.
What's coming next for Cuba?
Well, we're going to see. It's a failing nation. You see that it's falling apart. They have no oil. They have no money. It's a failing nation, so I just can't tell you that. But we're there to help.
This time, we don't have to worry about the Russians. Putin has his own problems. His war in Ukraine's going nowhere. And he's hiding from assassins. He just dipped into Beijing for a little powwow. The Russian leader wants to set up an oil pipeline to China because he lost a lot of European customers, and Xi lost Iran and Venezuela. But the two can't agree on price. Trump's keeping an eye on him.
Well, he told me he was going to. I think it's good. I get along with both of them, but I think it's good. I don't know if the ceremony is quite as brilliant as mine. I watched. I think we topped them.
The day Vlad landed, the U.S. Marines and Japanese test-fired some mobile defense rockets. They call it a shoot-and-scoot drill, just to make sure the Ruskies and Chi-Coms know we're ready. The United States has our eyes open. Airstrikes in Nigeria have killed over 175 ISIS fighters, including their top guy. U.S. Africa Command says they even discovered Mexican cartels on the continent.
In this time, 11 of the 12 drug labs that have been interdicted have had Mexican cartel members on site, to include the largest drug lab that had ever been disrupted in South Africa, that there were Sinaloa cartel members on site.
What's the destination of those drugs?
Those drugs are destined for the Middle East, for Europe, but we're also seeing them then come in through the northern route back into America. As we have applied pressure on the southern border, they're finding other means to bring those drugs into our nation.
The Iranians are in their caves taking a lot of notes.
Right now, we're the hottest country anywhere in the world. We're respected all over the world. You saw that with China just recently. You saw that in Venezuela. You saw that right now in Iran. Everything's gone. Their Navy's gone. Their Air Force is gone. Just about everything. The only question is, do we go and finish it up, or are they going to be signing a document? Let's see what happens.
The president earlier this week was an hour away from restarting the war. And the word on the street is the military was not effing around. That's a quote with this bombing campaign. It was going to be ruthless. The commander-in-chief gave peace another chance, but those targets are still staring us in the face.
Where does that stand today? Have you heard anything from them?
Very right on the borderline, believe me. If we don't get the right answers, it goes very quickly. We're all ready to go. We have to get the right answers. It would have to be a complete 100% good answers. And if we do, we save a lot of time, energy, and lives.
And this just in, the president is saying he's going to be making a very big announcement on Iran in the next 24 hours. Axios is reporting that Trump and Netanyahu had a dramatic and lengthy phone call. President Trump reportedly told the Israeli leader that he's on the cusp of a deal to formally end the war and launch a 30-day period of negotiations over the nuke program and the Strait. The Pakistanis and Qataris are the middlemen shuttling proposals back and forth. One source saying Netanyahu's hair was on fire after the call. But POTUS says he's got it under control.
He'll do whatever I want him to do, and he's a great guy. To me, he's a great guy. Don't forget, he was a wartime prime minister, and he's not treated right in Israel, in my opinion. I'm right now at 99% in Israel. I could run for prime minister, so maybe after I do this, I'll go to Israel, run for prime minister.
Sources are saying Trump's not sending a delegation to Islamabad if the Iranians don't agree ahead of time to our terms. No enrichment and open the Strait. Trump says if they don't agree to that, things are going to get a little bit nasty. But these Iranians are impossible. You can't even get them to agree to talk about what you're supposed to talk about. The president has a lot more patience than most.
I never get tired. But what I like to do, if I can save war by waiting a couple of days, or I can save people being killed by waiting a couple of days, I think it's a great thing to do.
The Iranians are cornered, wicked, and cunning. They've been burning diplomats for decades. But now they're at their weakest point in history, and they're under tremendous economic pressure. The generals don't trust them and think it's time for bridge and power plant day.
We all know that President Trump is what I refer to as the backstop. He's not going to take a bad deal. He's not going to accept something that doesn't meet his objectives. My point is, I don't think there's any chance these guys are going to put something on the table. It's been 6 weeks. That's going to accept it. And let's get on with what we need to do and finish this once and for all.
The president's hoping economic fury will make him tap. The blockade's in full effect. The enemy is gasping. The president gave a commencement speech to the Coast Guard cadets today in Connecticut and gave the boys a nice shout out.
You have this young, handsome captain saying, do not proceed further. You are in enemy territory. Do not proceed further or we will shoot. And last week you saw one shot, not a missile shot, a bullet, a very large bullet. A bullet from 4 miles hit the rudder of the ship. And the rudder of the ship fell into the ocean. It was a beautiful thing to see. And the man said, no, we are going back to Iran.
Earlier today in the Gulf of Oman, Marines from the 31st Expeditionary Unit boarded another Iranian blockade runner, the MT Celestial Sea. Now it's property of Uncle Sam, and so's the crude. The blockade's about to turn around 100 ships. The president has a message for our sailors. Don't give up, ever.
Let me leave you with a few words of advice to maybe help you a little bit on your way. First, most important, never, ever give up. Never give up. They ask me, how do you be successful, sir? Starts with never give up. I've learned a lot about life, but the one thing I've really learned is that perseverance, never quitting, never giving up is a big deal. No matter how terrible the storm, no matter how difficult the mission, never surrender.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.
significant day for the central bank as it transitions to new leadership.
Correspondent James Jacoby traces the battle between Donald Trump and the central bank.
If I want him out, he'll be out of there real fast, believe me.
You think that this is all part of an effort by
I showed you guys what was happening with Donald Trump and the Federal Reserve, but I want to watch something specifically on Raul Castro and show you guys what Cuba thinks of it. And I swear, I'm out of here after that. I swear. But let me are we still friends? You guys really doing a big one in the chat. Okay, here we go. Are we still friends, you guys? Oh, I forgot to show you the video.
Have been waiting since 1959 for a regime change there in Cuba. Will indicting Raul Castro and others who were, according to the DOJ, involved in the shoot down of these two brothers to the rescue aircraft do anything to hasten that process along?
We'll go to bed after this one.
Yeah, listen, I think we're closer now than arguably we've ever been before. And keep in mind, against the backdrop of this very critically important DOJ indictment today, we had Secretary Rubio delivering a Spanish language address to the Cuban people, offering some humanitarian assistance delivered through the Catholic Church and a way out, a future. Where people shouldn't be denied the right to vote and democratic process. We've got U.S. military enforcing a blockade. Director CIA Ratcliffe, having visited Cuba, kind of reminds me of in The Godfather with Tom Hagen as the consigliere, telling the Castro regime and their supporters that it might be time to go and think about a succession plan. I can tell you behind the scenes at CIA, there's a lot of very careful analysis about just how weak Cuba is as a result of rendering Maduro to the United States, eliminating the oil that Cuba was relying on from Venezuela, and also consideration for our national security of Cuba's relationship with China and Russia and North Korea and Iran. They're kind of a junior partner in this century's axis of dictatorship. If we can cut those links, the Western Hemisphere will be far more safe and secure.
Yeah, Dan, this was more from Todd Blanche when we were left wondering about additional charges and whether or not this investigation will bring any more. Listen here.
There is not a prosecutor in this room or an FBI agent in this room that ever stops investigating. So whether there will be additional charges, whether there are additional defendants charged, who knows? But an investigation like this is never over.
Your thoughts on that?
Look, the Cuban regime is responsible for a litany of crimes, and there's certainly lots of opportunities, I think, for the Department of Justice to bring some, to shine the spotlight on those crimes that were committed and bring justice. And I would expect that we may see more in the coming days and weeks ahead.
If that's your buddies at the CIA pinging you there, please share with us, Dan. Maybe they got some more information to provide. I joke.
That's my 13-year-old son leaving middle school, John, and we'll just have to get back to him in a few minutes.
Yeah, you know, I was saying this morning that I half expected to see Raul Castro being frog marched into a federal detention facility as this indictment news conference was underway. Do you know if there's any plans for a Maduro-style apprehension of Castro? Or, I mean, as Todd Blanche said, you know, whether he chooses to turn himself in or we get him by other means. I don't expect he's going to turn himself in. So, you know, if there's any plans for, quote, other means?
I could promise you with the highest level of confidence that there are plans on the shelf to render him if needed. Now, whether we end up doing something as proactive as that or not remains to be seen. But I'm not sure that we would simply indict him with no plan whatsoever to bring him to justice. So I think we just have to wait and stay tuned for further action here.
Fair enough. Dan Hoffman, what a day, what an afternoon. Thank you very much for jumping on the breaking news with us.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
Be sure.
All right, you guys. So there you have it, you guys. I have to do a regular stream later, so I'm actually going to end now. Thank you guys for hanging out with me. Doc, again, happy birthday. Thank you guys for helping them out the chat. You guys feel free to leave me a comment under my community posts. I do go through my comments and I respond. If you have any suggestions you want me to talk about, if you disagree with me, leave me a message. Okay, you guys? All right. What is your question cut off? What are you talking about? Why are you bothering me in chat? What are you talking about? You're going to ask me a question. Throw it in there fast so I go to bed. I don't know what you're talking about. I get too... What are you talking about? I just want to end my show. I want to end the show. Open question. Okay, if you can't put the question in there, then you're going to have to catch me on a regular stream. I love this country. I am praying for this country. Is it perfect? No, but we live in the best country in the world. And if you can't make it in this country, you have nobody to blame but yourself. Okay? Okay. Nancy, you're very welcome. You're very welcome. I can't believe you guys let Nori rock out in my chat like that. Let me take care of Nori. I asked you not to address me. Okay, you guys, look at. I play videos, not saying I agree with all of it, just to show you what's going on in the world. I haven't even given you guys really any commentary. I'll let you see for yourself. I'm not trying to brainwash you. I'm just trying to show you what's happening in the world and in the country. America first. America first. Thank you. Thank you for getting out of here. I'm like, y'all let it rock out. You can argue with each other, but don't argue with me when I'm running my stream. Come to my regular stream if you want to debate me. Okay, but I'm doing a horizontal stream. These ones, I'm not doing it. I'm trying to get you guys some information so you can know what's happening in the country. Conservatives, we got midterms coming up. Go out there. It's really important that you vote. And the rest of you, I'm praying for you guys. And we shouldn't let politics divide us. We talk about it and we discuss. And at the end of the day, we break bread. I love you guys, and I'll see y'all later. Okay, thank you for hanging out with me. 23B Rad. You good? All right, you guys. Bye-bye. Worst president ever. Donald Trump is amazing. You got her, you got her, you got her. God, I'm going to read this comment before I go. God bless Trump and God bless the truth. Thank you, Miss You. To hell with the evil left in their lives. You guys be cutting up in the chat. You guys cut up, Chad. Let's get along. Let's go along. All right, you guys. I'll see y'all later. I'll see you guys there. Bye-bye. Oh, Doc, thank you for my cake on my community wall.